Hello everybody, welcome back. It's another creature feature from the Reptile Zoo, and today I'm getting to work with quite an amazing and beautiful lizard. So this is known as a mossy gecko, and they are found on the island of New Caledonia. The New Caledonian geckos are quite a unique group of geckos. For one, being living in an island habitat, there's bound to be quite a few unique traits and animals that develop in those sorts of ecosystems. One of those traits being that for the New Caledonian geckos, they seem to be losing their ability to regenerate their tail. Now this guy actually can regenerate its tail, however it takes a bit longer than most other geckos. A lot of geckos, they lose their tail, it grows back in like 1 or 2 months. But for the geckos that can grow the tails back on New Caledonia, like this species, it may take as long as 6 months. And for those of you that are familiar with the crested geckos, once they lose their tail, it doesn't grow back at all. But let's focus on this beautiful guy. Now this is an adult size, though I have heard of them getting bigger, reaching somewhere about maybe 8 to 10 inches in length. Now, for a gecko, that is a really, really long animal. Not a lot of geckos reach that size. And these beautiful guys, it's so easy to see why they're called the mossy gecko. Beautiful reds and greens. Some of them even get browns and grays. And like any other gecko, these guys are good jumpers. And as most geckos have, they've got those beautiful, flattened, sticky, padded feet. They're wonderful tree climbers. And like all the other geckos in New Caledonia, these guys are omnivorous, primarily dining on insects. However, they do have a sweet tooth for things like fruits. Now this animal is of course an egg layer, but there's something quite different about these guys compared to just about any other gecko I've heard of. For a lot of reptiles, we know that their eggs tend to be a little more rubbery or leathery. They have a bit more give when you kind of squish them a little bit. But for the mossy gecko, their eggs tend to be a bit more calcified, so it's actually a bit more like a bird's egg. However, they still have that adhesive glue, so they can stick together. They still only lay a couple of them though, but they'll tend to stick together because like other reptile eggs, they can't roll over. Once they've been laid, they gotta sit in that position, otherwise if the egg rolls, the embryo can drown. And these guys even take care of their eggs. A female will take good care to hide them, usually under some loose tree bark, and she doesn't abandon them. She will actually sit and guard those eggs. She'll be somewhere nearby where she can keep an eye on them, make sure no predators get them. And that'll take about 60 to 90 days before those eggs hatch. And then, of course, those babies are on their own. But who's ever heard of a gecko that actually takes care of their eggs? Isn't that something? A lot of the time they find a good place to hide them, lay their eggs, and that's it. They're done. They abandon them. Now these guys have a lot of other common traits you'll see in geckos. Huge eyes, wonderful nocturnal animals, able to absorb even the faintest amount of light to see in the dark. No eyelids though, they're not able to blink. That's another common trait in geckos. And they can, of course, keep their eye clean by licking it. I don't know if you've ever seen them do that before. And another thing I think is actually quite fun about these guys is their tails are actually prehensile. They're such an arboreal species. Even the tail is designed to be sticky. The underside is just like the bottoms of their toes. And I don't know if I can get them to, whoop! Look at that! How he can wrap his tail around almost like a chameleon does. You don't see that every day in a gecko. Quite an amazing animal. Sadly though, this species, like all other New Caledonian species, they're considered vulnerable to extinction. Now that's not the worst position to be in. You could just be flat out endangered. That's obviously pretty bad. But vulnerable is really not the worst position. However, it still means that we gotta pay attention. We gotta take care of them, make sure that they stick around. And it's not a big island habitat. So their numbers, while great in density, there's only so much land they occupy. So overall, the number of these geckos in the world is not very high. But it is such an amazing lizard. I would love to see these guys stick around for many, 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 many generations to show these beautiful guys off. Well, everyone, we're gonna call that a wrap. Get it? And we're gonna take this guy back, but I was so glad you could join us. I was so glad he could join us for another one of our creature features. And hopefully we'll see you guys again in the next one. Until then, you take care.